What up, fight fans? It is Saturday night, August 8th. It is time for the Iman Report. Finally got to watch the fights tonight. I was going to work overtime today, but the computers went down, so I got to watch all the fights tonight. Really good fight card for the most part for a UFC Fight Night card on ESPN Plus. On a scale of 1 to 10, I give tonight's fight card a 7, which is pretty good for a ESPN Plus fight card. In the main event tonight, Derek Lewis gets the submission over Alexei Olenek by submission in the second round. The first round was pretty good. By knockout. So yeah, Lewis gets the knockout of Olenek in the second round, but Olenek in the first round tried to get the submission of Lewis, but Lewis is such a big and strong man. That proved to be no easy task. It did end up wearing out Olenek, and in the second round, Derek Lewis gets the knockout with the ground and pound. Now Derek Lewis has set himself up for a big fight. But he did say after the fight he's going to lose some weight first. I applaud him for that before getting back in the octagon. But as for who should be next for Derek Lewis, I think this one is a no-brainer. I think you go with Curtis Blades. That could be a really good headliner for a fight night card. A good top 3 on a pay-per-view card or co-main on an ESPN card. And Curtis Blades, number 3, Derek Lewis, number 4. Put those two fighters together. The winner of that fight gets the next title shot after what shakes out next week between DC and DC and Miocic 3 is next Saturday night. The winner of that's likely, we'll see if both retire or not. There's going to be a lot of moving parts there. Next up for the title shot after that is Francis Ngannou. The bad news is for both Blades and Lewis, they both have losses to Ngannou. The good part for Lewis, though, is that Lewis's loss was in boring fashion to Ngannou, whereas Lewis's loss to Ngannou was not even close. So I think you put Curtis Blades and Derek Lewis versus Curtis Blades. Those should be the next two to meet. I think that is the fight to make. As for Alexei Olenek, good elder statesman to the UFC, good gatekeeper, but he's always going to be around a top 15 ranked gatekeeper. I think for him, give him the loser of Cyril Gagné and Shamil Abdurakhimov. I think the loser of that fight is what should be next for Olenek. In the co-main event before that, Chris Weidman gets a win. That's right. The world's not ending. Chris Weidman actually got a win in the UFC over Omari Akhmedov. It was by unanimous decision. 29-20. 2 judges had it 29-27. 1 judge had it 29-28. This was Chris Weidman's first win since fighting Kelvin Gastelum. Okay, he's lost 2. So in the last 7 fights, he's 2-5. But most of the competition has been very top competition who he's lost to. Luke Rockhold, back when Luke Rockhold was back in his peak. Yoel Romero, Soldier God. Yoel Romero's no slouch. Gegard Mousasi. Jacare. Now, Jacare could be Weidman's worst loss in that stretch. And then, of course, getting knocked out by rising contender Dominic Reyes. And Reyes could be finding himself fighting for the interim belt at light heavyweight very, very soon. So for Weidman, he's lost, but he's lost to mostly top fighters. Does this win mean he needs to go back to fighting top fighters? No. I don't think he is a contender, but maybe he's a gatekeeper. Akhmedov proved that he's probably nothing more than a gatekeeper in the UFC. But as for who should be next for Chris Weidman, Derek Brunson. Brunson's another guy who Brunson's mainly lost to top competition. Brunson always loses to top ranked fighters, but always beats the fighters below him. Brunson is the ultimate gatekeeper. I don't think he's a contender. But I think this could be a good opportunity. And surprisingly, both these fighters have been in the UFC for a very long time, and they've never fought each other. I think this is the perfect time for the stars to align to meet. So I think it should be time for Derek Brunson against Chris Weidman. That would be a really good fight. I think that could be a very entertaining fight. Winner of that fight probably gets a top 5 fighter. As for Omari Akhmedov, this is his first loss in 6 fights. Akhmedov had his moments. He did show some good grappling in the second round. But for the most part, Chris Weidman was able to grapple. Unfortunately, Akhmedov was not able to strike. And that's where Weidman's weakness was the chin. So I think Akhmedov could be more of a fluke. As for, I think tonight, though, Weidman just killed off a contender. And maybe Akhmedov was never really a contender to begin with. Who should be next for Omari Akhmedov? I think we give him another fighter who's who's had a couple losses in Antonio Shoeface. Let's see if these two have fought before I book it here. But Akhmedov's best win is against Ian Heinisch. The other wins are against okay competition. Tim Boach, Zach Cummings. He drew Marvin Vittori. So the names he's beaten has not exactly screamed contender. So he's had a 6-fight winless streak snapped. 6-fight winning, not undefeated streak, shall I say. He drew Marvin Vittori. That was not technically a win. So I think for Akhmedov, he might be a good I think he's a gatekeeper. I don't think he's a contender at 185. But I think the next fight for him should be Antonio Shoeface Carlos Jr. Put those two together. This is a loser-loser. This is loser. Put it in the middle of a card. I think I've seen what I've seen out of Akhmedov. Medov is 32. He's not getting any younger. I think he's really a gatekeeper. He's not an entertaining fighter. So I think you bury him, put him against Antonio Carlos Jr. and bury him a little bit down in the next fight card. In the middleweight event before that, Darren Stewart submits Makai Pitolo via submission. Who should be next for Darren Stewart? I gotta get on to Fight Matrix. Darren Stewart looked really impressive in his return to the UFC tonight. He was ranked 59 tonight. Okay, I think I am going to do a little lazy matchmaking. I'm going to put Lou has Darren's. Let me make sure these two have not fought yet. But I think we're going to do a little lazy matchmaking and pair them up with another winner from tonight's fight card. Okay, they've not fought each other, so I think I'm going to go with Darren Stewart. We're going to give him the mullet in Andrew Sanchez. Those two are ranked right near each other on Fight Matrix. Easy enough to make for some lazy matchmaking there. As for Pitolo, from Maki Pitolo, ranked 113. He is a prospect, but I think he just lost to a more experienced fighter tonight. So I'll give him a step down in Anthony Hernandez. That's what's next for Pitolo. Well, actually, strike that. I don't know if he's much of a prospect now. Strike that. He's 1-2 in the UFC. His only win is against Charles Byrd. Yeah, I think Anthony Hernandez sounds right. And Hernandez is another fighter that is 1-3, so that could somebody's job could be in jeopardy in that fight. In the fight before that at women's bantamweight, Yana Kunitskaya beats Julia Stoliarenko by unanimous decision 30-26. Other two judges had it 30-27. This one was a bit of a snoozer. As for Kunitskaya, she was the number 8 ranked fighter at women's bantamweight. Let me see who she's won and lost against. She's lost against Aspen Ladd. She's beaten Marion Renault, Lena Landsberg. She's only lost to top competition in Chris Cyborg and Aspen Ladd. Nothing to sneeze at there. As for who should be next for Kunitskaya, let's see if Caitlin Vieira has a fight coming up or not. Okay, she's fighting Marion Renault next, so. And she's coming off a loss, so I'm not going to go with that. Irene Aldana, that may not be too bad. Okay, Aldana's fighting Holly Holm in October. I think this one might make a lot of sense. I'd say we go ahead and give Kunitskaya the winner of Irene Aldana and Holly Holm. I think that makes a lot of sense. Aldana ranked number 6, Holly Holm always a good test for a fighter. So I think the winner of Holm and number 2 and number 6 will fight Kunitskaya next. As for Stoliarenko, this was her first fight in the UFC, but she did win the belt at Invicta, so she is not a slouch. So maybe somebody like Beth Correa should be next. I'll go with that. Sarah McMahon, Beth Correa, or even a debutante. No, so that's what's next for Ulia Stoliarenko. And in the first fight of the main card tonight, Beneil Dariush knocks out Scott Hot Sauce Holman by a spinning back elbow. The bad news is Beneil Dariush missed weight in this fight and will forfeit some of his prize money to Scott Holtzman. Dariush came in 2 pounds overweight. But I think Dariush has set himself up for a big fight. Dariush now a winner of. Dariush, I think, has now won 4 in a row, 5 in a row. 5 in a row, yeah. He's on a 5-fight winning streak. So I do think what's next for him is a ranked opponent. Who should be next for Beneil Dariush? I think we go with another fighter on a big winning streak, Islam Makhachev. Put those two in the octagon. The winner gets a top 10 fighter. That one would be fireworks. As for Scott Holtzman, he was very game in a losing effort. Just the second round, he was just out of gas. But I don't think Holtzman should take a big step back. I think for Holtzman, maybe another ranked opponent should be next, honestly. And a fighter who got knocked out recently, I say Gregor Gillespie. Holtzman versus Gillespie, that would be a very entertaining fight between two strikers. We'll see what Holtzman learns, and we'll see what Gillespie learns from his first loss. So I would go Gregor Gillespie versus Scott Holtzman. That would be really good for a fight night card. Now on to what was a very fun prelim card. Now I'm going to have to get the fight matrix back up again. But in the kind of the feature card of the prelim card, Tim Means beats Laureano Staropoli 30-27, 29-28, 29-28. For Tim Means, this is his just when we thought his career might have been finished. Not so fast. Tim Means has kind of exchanged wins and losses. Means always an entertaining fighter, never will fight for a belt, but he is always a good gatekeeper. But as long as he keeps alternating wins and losses, he'll be fine. He's no threat to be cut, so. Means ranked about 77. Okay, I will go with Tim Means and Rustam Khabilov. That's what should be next for Tim Means. As for Laureano Staropoli, who should be next for Staropoli? I think for Staropoli, he's lost 2 in a row now, so I think this will be likely means a step down in competition for Staropoli. Staropoli ranked 83 according to Fight Matrix. Well, if he's still on the UFC roster, I'm going to go with Brian Barberena. Both fighters have 2 losses in a row, so that makes enough sense to me. I'll go with Barberena and Staropoli. Fight before that, Kevin Holland beats Joaquin Buckley via TKO. What's next for Kevin Holland? You say simply rebook the fight against Trayvon Giles. As for Buckley, he looked game in a losing effort. So I do think he'll get another fight in the UFC. He'll probably be against a debutant. The fight before that, Narsat Akparas beats Alexander Munoz. Unanimous decision. All 3 judges had it 30-27. Akparas ranked 89 right now in the UFC. His next fight should be against Vink Pichel. Vink Pichel should be that should be it. What's next for Akparas? As for Alexander Munoz, he gets a debutant since that is his debuting fight. In the fight before that, Andrew Sanchez KOs Wellington Tuman. Wellington Terman. I think what's next for Sanchez, I said it earlier, a little lazy matchmaking, put him up against Darren Stewart. As for Wellington Terman, he is now 1-2 in the UFC. Only win against Marcus Perez. So I do think Terman's going to have to take a bit of a step down. I say what's next for Terman is Roman Kopylov is what's next for should be next for Terman. In the fight before that, Gavin Tucker beats Justin James via submission. James, a very tough fighter. This was a really good fight on the prelim card. James had some advantages, and then Tucker took control on the ground in the later rounds. Tucker getting the submission. And I think now Gavin Tucker 12-1. I think what's next for Gavin Tucker, a striker in Steven Peterson. That would be very entertaining and mouthwatering on a prelim card. Tucker versus Peterson. Book that. As for what is next for Justin James, no shame in losing to Gavin Tucker. Being the ranked 152 at featherweight. His next fight should be against Sean Woodson. Loser versus loser, so it makes sense. Yusef Zalal gets the unanimous decision over Peter Barrett 30-26. 4-2 judges, 30-27 for the other judge. For Yusef Zalal, this is his third. He's 3-0 in the UFC now. I think the kid needs a step up in competition. See where Zalal is ranked. Zalal is looking like looking like a promising prospect in the featherweight division. And I think it's time for him to get a step up in competition after tonight. Zalal coming in ranked at 119. I think Leron Murphy should be next for Yusef Zalal. As for who should be next for Peter Barrett, I think a debutant. Erwin Rivera wins the opener tonight over Ali Al-Casey. Al-Casey, 29-28 for two judges. One judge at it. 29-28 for Al-Casey. Who should be next for Rivera? ranked 154 at bantamweight. I'd say Ricky Steele. So go Erwin Rivera versus Ricky Steele. That should be next. Ali Al-Casey, what's next for him? Should be a debutante. Now on to next week. Next week is going to be a very fun fight in the UFC. The trilogy next Saturday night between Daniel Cormier and Stipe Miocic could possibly be the last time we see these two fighters inside the octagon. This should be a very good pay-per-view card. Win or lose, I think both of these fighters have had great careers in the UFC, and it could be the last time we see both of these fighters in the octagon as they look to finish their trilogy. This should be very fun. The winner likely gets Francis Ngannou next. The co-main is surprisingly Sugar Sean O'Malley against Marlon Vera. We're gonna find out a lot about Sugar Sean O'Malley as he will be under the spotlight as the co-main event next Saturday night. Will he be a true bona fide contender in the 135 division, or is he going to end up another Johnny Walker who buckles under the lights? We will find out. Another one that's very entertaining, Junior Dos Santos against Jarinzo Rosenstruck. That should be good. John Dodson against Merab Dvalishvili. Very underrated. That is a very underrated fight. Dvalishvili looking to get into the top 15 in that fight. And then the opener in the main card, Magomed Ankalaev against Ion Cutelaba. Jim Miller fighting Vink Pinchel. So for that fight earlier, where I wanted to book Pinchel against, I'm going to the winner of Miller and Pinchel. But that should be a very fun fight card. I am really excited to seeing the trilogy next Saturday night. Should be, hopefully it'll bring in a lot of pay-per-view revenue. So everybody get excited, get some pizza next weekend, some Coke, some Pepsis, some beers, whatever. Should be a very fun fight card. Just stay 6 feet apart. Mask up if you have guests over. Be safe, stay awesome. I look forward to seeing you next week. Tomorrow we will be doing NFL. Next week we will do previews of the Tomorrow night we'll do previews of the NFC North, the Mountain West Conference, and the possibility of college football heading to the spring as colleges make their decisions. So everybody stay awesome, have a good night, and talk to you tomorrow.